Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Open Classroom. I'm Janet Gillow, the Director of Professional Development for the Brown School here at Washington University in St. Louis. Thank you for being with us. Welcome to a really special program. I want to acknowledge my friend and co-host, Cynthia Williams. She's our Assistant Dean for Community Partnerships. She's going to be helping to moderate the chat and bring your voice into the room through the question and answer portion at the end. Just briefly by way of housekeeping, folks joining us on the Zoom webinar, you probably know this, but we can't see or hear you. The chat feature is enabled, and we would love to have your comments, questions, and greetings throughout the program. So please do feel free to participate. We want to welcome everybody joining on YouTube through our live stream or perhaps viewing this recording later. So delighted that you're taking advantage of the opportunity to participate, but also want to make you aware that we're not able to moderate Q&A through YouTube. So before we get started, I just want to let you know that we're back on the air tomorrow for another program with Open Classroom. Interim Co-Dean Rodrigo Rios is delivering a talk on people, health, and place. So that's going to be an examination of place-based factors that contribute to health disparities. That's part of our Brown School Curriculum Showcase. We'd love to have you come back for that, or literally like any of the other 4 programs we have coming up before the end of the semester. But today we're really excited to be launching our observance of Black History Month, and to get us started, it is my honor to introduce Interim Co-Dean Tanya Edmond. Tanya?
Thank you so much, Janet and Cynthia, again, for your leadership in developing this incredible set of programs. Welcome everyone to the first event of the Brown School's Black History Month 2022 celebration and recognition. I want to thank the amazing staff committee that has developed the program and web resources we'll be bringing to you, particularly co-chairs Tiffany Phillips and Cynthia Williams. For us, Black History Month is an opportunity to bring focus on racial justice and racial equity in a multifaceted way. Our theme this year is Champions of Black Health and Well-Being in St. Louis. Against the backdrop of the pandemic, recognizing the heroes of the past and those leading our community right now is our focus, work that has never been more important. We've partnered with members of our team as well as experts in the community to create 8 webinars for you in the Open Classroom format. We also invite you to check out our website and meet the champions we are celebrating. There's some amazing work that we're acknowledging in this form, and we really want you to take the time to learn about these amazing contributions, these amazing human beings. Some of that amazing work is taking place right here at our school, led by our speaker, my colleague and friend, Dr. Sean Joe, who is the Benjamin E. Youngdahl Professor of Social Development. He is a nationally recognized authority on suicidal behavior among Black Americans and is expanding the evidence base for effective practice with Black boys and young men. His research focuses on Black adolescents' mental health service use patterns, the role of religion in Black suicidal behavior, salvatory biomarkers of suicidal behavior, and development of father-focused family-based interventions to prevent urban African-American adolescent males from engaging in multiple forms of self-destructive behavior. Sean is the founding director of the Race and Opportunity Lab and the leader of the community science project HomeGrown St. Louis. Here to talk about HomeGrown St. Louis and the project's contributions to improving Black male well-being, economic upward mobility, and equity in the St. Louis region, please give a warm welcome to Professor Sean Joe.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me. So I want to thank Ms. Williams and the team, and Tiffany and Janet, and for organizing this and inviting me to be able to share some of the work that we're doing here in the St. Louis region. That has implications, of course, for how we might address some of these greater goals nationally. But I want to thank you, Tanya, for a warm welcome. And I am feeling a little bit of pressure because this is the lead off. So I'll do my best to be able to lift up an important topic, which I think I would try to do. But if I am not able to do that via this, my use of technology, please excuse me, but know that I will try to do it as best as I can with the words I'm about to share. So let me first share screen. and get into this, and hopefully I am on the right space here. So let me do that, and they will let me know if I am ready. I got to do this twice, so forgive me. It's not their fault. It's just my competence. I always got to do it twice just to make sure. Otherwise, Ms. Williams will remind me, Dr. Joe, you're not moving, which is okay. So I want to talk today a little bit about organizing St. Louis to advance regional equity by improving the black male well-being and economic upward mobility. So again, my objective is kind of position this understanding of black male well-being and economic well-being in the United States, and argue that with intentional actions and reflective development, we can begin to advance equity, because again, we're differentiating and understanding how the opportunity structures within our society, in this case, just using St. Louis, is organized. And we say, however, our region has been championing for the last 7 years to work to ensure that black boys' transition into adulthood features greater likelihood of health and upward mobility. This is some intentional action that many have been working on over the last 7 years. So as you listen today, you're going to learn a little bit about community science. You're going to learn a little bit about organizing systems for change and the importance of intentional and relentless investment in black boys, and a belief in their elite potential. And if we center our work around this group, this is not the only thing we need to do to advance equity, but if we do this, then we'll be correcting some historical patterns that have been, I guess, endemic or well, we say systemic to American process about economic development and shared opportunity. Basically says, does the society benefit all? And it often doesn't benefit all. And in particularly, again, since the birth of the nation, black male economic well-being has always been undermined, first structurally through through slavery, then through Jim Crow, then through other structural patterns that have been put in place that makes it difficult. Although we have successes and we can point to it, I can point to myself in many ways, but again, this is not population level impact. And when we're talking about equity, we want to see population level impact. At least that's the lens that I bring to this work, and I try to suggest with those who are working with me in my lab that that's what we're focused on. So again, HomeGrown StL, advancing equity by improving black male social mobility. For far too long, we've been confronting the reality. Many of you know this, and you know this. We can show this in St. Louis, you can show this in New York, you can show this in Baltimore or in Chicago. Again, how place conditions or place is the ecosystem through which people develop, and we have very different outcomes just miles apart. And again, this is one that was done here by that 18-year gap in life expectancy, and you see these sort of differences. We've been confronting our reality regarding inequality for a long time, and again, St. Louis has been ranked, as you see here, this is work by Raj Chetty and his group, 42nd out of 50 large metropolitan areas regarding its economic mobility. That means how you go from one generation is better off than their parents were when they reach the stage of parenthood, like their as their own parents were at that time. So economic mobility is about how one generation is better off than the other. And you can find many indicators of that. One generation is a high school graduate, the other one wasn't. One generation is more wealthier than the other, and so on and so forth. So this is what we mean by economic mobility. I have something wrong here. Hopefully this will work. So one of the key things that we want to do, and we center our work here, is about closing the earnings gap here in the United States, and particularly here in St. Louis. And we bring this up for black males because it's a central part of what we have to focus on when we're talking about their economic mobility. Here's some truth. For the last 40 years, black men particularly of prime working age, 21 to 29, are becoming a larger proportion of the men of prime working age in our region. So the question is, but we have not been investing in their economic mobility, thus our region will never be able to fully achieve the goal that it has set for itself. And when you see this sort of decline, let me show you this. Since 1980, there's been a 17% increase in the proportion of prime working age men who are black. And black in this sense mean anyone of African descent. Whether they're from the Caribbean or Africa, they will be identified as black for this conversation and often in the region. At the same time, while you see an increase in the percentage of black males who are accounting for a larger share of the prime working age workforce, there's been a 46% decline in white males 21 to 29 who's within the city and county of St. Louis of prime working age. And the question is, we have seen this shift, but we're not investing in one side of the ledger in the same ways that we have invested in the other side of the ledger. And this has consequences. It has consequences for our region because it has consequences for these individuals, these males and their families, should they be fortunate enough to have them. And one way we measure that is in their personal income. And in this here, you see what's called the median personal income. And if you follow this from left to right, you see a declining trend. For both black and white men is in gray, black men is in red. And you see this declining trend where you see the income, the median personal income is declining over these years. So as you know, as many in this country is dealing with, and you hear on the national news, things are not headed in the right direction for many. There might be some in between for whose life is better, but on a whole, on a population level, things are not headed in the right direction. So much so that if you just take away whether or not the person has a bachelor's degree, you see it's even a steeper decline in the reduction of earnings, of income. We're not talking wealth yet, because wealth is very different. We're just talking income, right? Wealth is what you have when you take away all the liabilities that you might have to, or debt. That's what you have wealth. Here we're just talking about income, what you can earn from a job, whether you're an employer or you are the owner. That's the job. This is the earnings that we're talking about. And as you can see, as I say, it's not going in the right direction for the city and county. But there's some hope, and we always look at this again. If we then put everyone on the same plane, meaning, for example, here they have a similar degree attainment, bachelor's degree, we see that the earnings can actually be going up when everyone is on the same equitable plane, has the same level of investment in preparation and in opportunity. You have the potential to eliminate the gap. And as you can see here, from 1980 to 2019, the earnings went up for those with a bachelor's degree of prime working age in the city and county of St. Louis who are black and white. So it gives us a sense of hope that we can be intentional about bringing about change. What does this look like on a daily basis? We're talking about the difference between $125 a day and $131 a day that bachelor's degree prime working age men are able to have access to in income. In contrast to those without a bachelor's degree, it's now $34 a day for black men, $57 a day for white men. Now, this doesn't deal with the fact that maybe this is not the right level of wage. That's a whole nother conversation, and it's worth having. But it does say, even within the current context, we have great inequality. We have great inequities, and thus we must do something to address this. And this is not something that's been going on for a short period of time. This is long-standing. This is more than 40 years, and we can probably go back and see that these gaps have always been there. But I come to this conversation on kicking off Black History Month, reflecting on the fact that it was MLK Day not too long ago, that I wanted to quote MLK here, and hopefully that tell you where my spirit and this work centers on. So, let me quote. Now that King was talking here, this is his mountaintop speech, and he was positioning himself that if he can go back in time and pick any time in history, what time he would pick, and he said he would pick the time that he was in at the moment. And he says that's a strange statement to make, because he says the world is messed up. The nation is sick. Trouble is in the land, confusion all around. Does this sound or feel familiar to you right now? And he said, that's a strange statement, but this is what touched me. But I know somehow that only when it is dark enough can you see the stars. And I'm thinking about all we're debating, all we're going through with the pandemic, all the death, all the healing, all the death, all the grief that's out there, all the challenges, both macro challenges and micro challenges at the government level or at our dinner tables. And he says, I see God working in this period in a way that men, in some strange way, are responding. And I must say, over the last 7 years, I've been working with some outstanding individuals and champions for Black boys and young men, and I see people responding in spite of the great darkness. So I see many stars and champions out there doing fabulous work in the St. Louis region, believing that in the elite potential of Black boys and young men, and I want to share some of that work with you because something is happening in our world, not only in the work that we're doing, but I know in the work that you might be doing and others are doing in the region.
Imagine the St. Louis region where every student has access to the same elite resources and economic opportunities as its most wealthy citizens. A region where we cut through inequality across school districts, giving every Black male student the ability to consistently reach their highest potential and thrive. By pairing each student with a homegrown life coach, providing intensive case management and personalized care for up to 17 years, we can increase access to the right resources at the right time to help them heal and live their best possible lives. Homegrown life coaches receive ongoing training to support the social, economic, and health needs of each student over time. Their role is to work with youth and families, connecting them to the elite resources and making rapid referrals to the community-based organizations committed to providing the highest quality of care for our children. Improving the economic and social mobility of 60,000 Black boys and young men is not a small task. However, with our network of preferred providers, the relentless outreach, engagement, and follow-up from our homegrown life coaches, and you as a champion for change, we can realize the vision of a thriving St. Louis region that is the best version of itself.
And as I mentioned, this work has been championed by many people and then recognized here by both our city and county executive leaders, saying that what we're trying to do in St. Louis is unique. We are able to do this because of the unique resources in terms of the investment in the leadership that's already been on the ground, but now we've built something to allow us to do that work in a very collective impact, with a collective impact approach and with great strategy, with great detail, to be able to, so we will systematically set ourselves up to achieve the results that we want for our young people, for our young Black boys and young men. And if we can do this for one, the least among us economically, then we can do this for all. And thus our society, at least here in the St. Louis region, we can design it to make sure it benefits all. And through this work, we have built the first ever civic governance process erected in any metropolitan area, with our regional steering committee formed to guide this work and to help sustain this work. These are individual leaders of organizations and agencies aligning with those who are in municipal government to take some civic responsibility to say, we will come together and have a process for using the best information, working directly with Black males, focus on how they are doing and how do we create the right ecosystem to help them reach their own personal goals that they have for themselves. And while they're doing that, we're helping them to heal and then to grow with good skills development and then putting them in a position to thrive. And these wonderful individuals like Valerie Patton and Dr. Flint Fowler, who are inaugural co-chairs. Again, important organizations, but more important, grand spirits who are centered on good information, working diligently, working relentlessly, working deeply, and looking at a long-term process. Because again, we didn't get here overnight, and we're not gonna get to where we want to get to, go in that direction overnight. So again, we're taking a very focused approach. And the approach centers on one idea, that a way a community is organized directly determines the experiences of its residents. This is not wishing or pie in the sky. We are organized to experience the type of results that we currently experience both in the city and the county. So if we want to see something different, we will organize, structure ourselves to be different, and thus we will get different outcomes. That is the spirit in which we've been doing this since 2015. Again, inspired because, again, we were reacting to the death of Michael Brown, but for me, it was Michael Brown, as Yusuf Hawkins, as many others that I've been reacting to, and Tamir Rice, to say that we got to do something different. And we've been doing that. We've convened in networking breakfasts. We've defined our geography. We know the population that we're working with. We're engaging with well over 100 organizations and leaders in that time. We've been moving quietly as those who are doing the day-to-day work is doing what they can to be excellent and to reach as many people as possible. But what was lacking is this broader infrastructure to make sure that we're organizing to even do better and to helping those who are doing the work do it better, doing with the best science that's out there and having the right infrastructure to be able to achieve the results that we want for the full population. So another way to say this, we've been working on designing ourselves for success at scale. Not at 300 or 400. When we get this together, we will be able to do this at scale. And we've been establishing the core values, the key elements of success, the infrastructure that we thought we need, the right governance process that we thought we need, like the launch of the Regional Steering Committee. And we've been working with other ways to make sure we're always working with those who are doing the work and then preparing ourselves to work with those for whom we're most concerned about, that they have a strong role at the table. So as we move forward in the next couple of years, again, whether it's our annual strategic planning structure or really because we have launched with at least a $3 million investment to start to move our agenda forward now, where we've been doing a lot of planning, a lot of designing, and now we're starting to work directly with young people, and we hope to scale that up to at least 5,000 by 2025. The goal is to try to reach 60,000. But if we think we have the right elements now with the great work that we're doing and the role of this unique strategy of homegrown life coaches who can provide personalized care, we think we have the right elements. We just now have to get the right investments, right collaborations to build those investments, and to make sure that we're able to measure not only our process, but our impact, our outcomes and our impact. So we're organized. I think now we're getting to the point, we're not there yet, we're getting to the point that we have the right elements to begin organizing ourselves to produce the results that we want. We do this in many other sectors. When the region wants to be the top sector or region for female entrepreneurship, we set ourselves up, we build infrastructures, and we invest. When we want to be the place to top 15 city to launch a career, we try to set ourselves up, we build infrastructure, we invest. When we want to be one of the fastest startup scenes, we invest, we organize ourselves, we build infrastructure, and we invest. This is the same thing we're trying to do here to make sure that we can do the same for young Black boys and young men. So if St. Louis wanted to be the best version of itself, then St. Louis has to invest in Black boys and young men for a sustained period of time. The return on investment we will see. We will see in them as young fathers. We're seeing them as young men, young boys. We will see the return because the social ills and concerns that we have, we will not have if they're on the path. The literature tells us that. People who are engaged, who have good reasons for living, good reasons for investing in work and family, who are making both the economic and the social climb progress that they want, they're not engaged in crime. They're not engaged in delinquency. They're not. The data tells us that. Let's invest. So what we have built is a transformative
For any
approach.
lock to work, you must use the right key. And to unlock the potential for a future different from our past, there are several keys that lead to the best version of the St. Louis region. At HomeGrown St. Louis, we call these keys the transformative framework for success. Within the framework, each of these elements are brought together and organized to create a scalable solution for advancing equity within our region. Currently, there is nearly a 2-to-1 gap in wages between Black and white men in St. Louis, meaning if the average annual income for white men is $30,000, the average annual income for a Black man is $15,000. This has been the case in our city for the last 40 years, and the gap continues to widen. The unfortunate reality is that right now we are not organized in a way that will help us overcome this inequity. By creating a space to organize and collaborate, we can align our efforts as a community and make progress towards the goal of improving the social and economic mobility of young Black men. with our Homegrown Life Coach program as the primary method of providing immediate care and support for Black boys and young men between the ages of 12 and 29, things are moving in the right direction. But there is a lot more that goes into organizing our community for the outcomes we want to see. Let's take a look at the other keys to success within the Homegrown St. Louis transformative framework. The ability to collect information and make data-driven decisions, answering questions like who is our audience, how many people do we need to reach, and what are the indicators of success? This is where it all begins. Then the crafting of a population-level vision, which in our case is the intentional focus on the 60,000 Black boys and young men throughout the St. Louis region. To help us make progress towards achieving our vision, effective leadership is critical. These are the individuals who focus our resources and efforts. They make up our regional steering committee, administrative core team, and the existing work groups currently serving the community. For Homegrown St. Louis, Washington University is our institutional anchor that adds resources, credibility, access to research, and a platform to build a larger case for regional support. Radical collaboration between other community-based organizations in the form of our Preferred Provider Network, or PPN. Technology designed to support coordinated care tailored to each individual, and other resources provided to members via the St. Louis Community Information Exchange. And finally, a clear plan for addressing future needs, setting standards for care, and implementing systems change. By combining each of these elements, we can unlock the true potential for the St. Louis region, opening economic doors that were once closed. A region where we cut through inequality, giving Black boys and young men the ability to consistently reach their highest potential and thrive. At Homegrown, we are starting in St. Louis and laying the path for how other communities can do this work. But we need your help. Invest in a brighter future for our region and join our effort to organize the community and improve the social and economic mobility of Black male youth.
So as you can see, there's been a lot of work done by a lot of individuals over time. This focuses on systems and individual level approaches. That's what makes what we're doing here very unique. I refer to this as kind of a community science approach. And what do we mean by that? That means we're working to envision a day when both the science and community collaborations are undertaken to make equitable population level impact. This is an approach that we've been growing with colleagues here at the Brown School to advance scholarship and social work's reputation as a source of evidence to inform policy and practice at the local, state, and national level. This approach has given us great insight as well as community organizing to say, how do you launch a 20-year effort to ensure that St. Louis is organized in a manner that improves the health, social, and economic mobility of an entire population of Black boys and young men. I've been grateful that I've been able to be part of this process. And it lays out for us a simple model. Don't get too confused by the graph. I'm not trying to show a lot of bright lights here. I'm just trying to make sure to illustrate. As I showed Black men, their economic mobility, young Black men, has been declining. And with what we're trying to do, either we can stay on this course, or we can take this homegrown approach and bring about a change in those outcomes, particularly closing that earnings gap. If we're able to do that, then we're able to, again, eliminate the earnings gap between young Black men and young white men, making sure that our economic system benefits all. It not only impacts those men, it impacts their families, whether the families that they have or the families that they're from. So it has a cascading impact, and the pandemic reminds us we are never in this alone. We all are interconnected. And it's important that we do this. So as we move ahead with our work, we're going to make sure that we build the leadership circle for young Black men themselves, who are going to remind us, as they should, nothing for us without us. And we have this in mind, but again, we also want to make sure that we're doing it in the right way that's supportive of where they are in their developmental stage, to make sure you're not asking young men to do things that adults who should be working full time to make sure that the ecosystem works better for them are doing their jobs, and the young people will do their jobs in terms of their motivation, their actions, and contribute to the vision and leadership and define what success means for themselves. But we acknowledge them, like Justin Cole, another young man who's stepping in to be a champion for change, focused on young Black fathers. We want to make sure, again, they are directly involved. We're aligning with municipal leadership to make sure that what we're doing and we can go after opportunities as a region, so we be prepared with plans to be able to say take advantage of whether it's state dollars or federal dollars. But we do that with alignment with those in the region to make sure that we can do that. And again, highlighting here Howard Hayes here in the county. Again, we're trying to make these strong alignments. We're doing that in the city. We're doing alignment with those who are directly advancing the standards and the agencies that are responsible for the healing, or the schools that are responsible for the growth of our young people, that they're part of this process. So I want to acknowledge Erise Williams and Erica Williams, who's helping to co-chair and lead our preferred provider network. And these are networks who are saying, we're going to do things differently. This is the systems change approach, meaning that you must change the systems that are responsible for healing, the ones that provide social needs care, whether it's housing or turning on the lights. It's how we approach people, how we support them. We must have new standards for data collection and referrals. And how do we do our outreach and engagement? Standards that really recognize their humanity as they're coming to the doors because they need help. These are pretty important things that we have to do as part of this process. So I want to acknowledge all these organizations who are helping to make this focus work advance. And at the same time, we're doing things to make sure that we're paying attention to policy. And there are groups of organizations and civic groups who are saying we got to make sure we take advantage of any policy opportunity, like the Medicare expansion, to make sure for the first time that we make sure all eligible young black men over the age of 18 are taking advantage of this access to health care. And we want to continue doing that work in partnership because we know there's a gap in terms of young black men who are not covered, or who could be covered by this expansion, and we think that number is about 10,000, and how we work together. I'm showing this as examples of the type of community engaged work that we're doing, this type of community science, and how we're working with others to help build out new infrastructure like the CIE, the St. Louis Community Information Exchange, which will be a 21st century digital infrastructure that can connect our social needs care or human services to our health care, and make sure that we have really strong closed loop referrals. And United Way and others are helping to lead that, and HomeGrown, and we're a part of that leadership. Also, we're not doing this alone. We're doing this with a lot of partners, and I wanted to highlight this as I'm doing this work, because again, I often don't get a chance to thank those who we're working with. So we're working with many because, again, we're coordinating research, the best knowledge that's out there. So we want to acknowledge these different offices who are working with us in many facets to make sure that we can build out the right arrangements, the MOUs, the relationships, and we have the full apparatus at the university that's willing to help advance this audacious goal. Whether from library services to field operation to the research office here at Brown or the finance office, these units are really engaged and have been engaged over the last 7 years. Whether it's around our community engaged and applied learning, thinking about those agencies that are out there doing the good work, what is the best science out there and how do we bring that to them? How do we create the right set of professional development? How do we take advantage of what's happening here on campus or in the region, and making sure those agencies, whether it's about accounting or program development or implementation or evaluation, we're trying to leverage everything that this university has to offer, so thus the university could be a true anchor for change in the lives of black boys and young men. So we thank these different offices because they're really engaged, whether it's our home unit, which is the Center for Social Development, for which the Race and Opportunity Lab is centered in, and their team. Again, Janet Gillow and the Brown School Professional Development Group, again, we're trying to leverage our communications office. I thank them because, again, this is what part of the community engagement means. It's not just individuals. We're talking about institutions and structures that has to be leveraged in a way that's aligned with their purpose and mission to be able to say, here's how I do my small piece to contribute to this larger vision and this larger service in support of the elite potential of black boys and young men. So I want to thank them, Clark Fox Policy Institute, the Evaluation Center, and we look to continue to work with these groups, Dr. Tim McBride and his group for the Center for Health, Economics, and Policy. And again, our administrative core who's helping us to make sure we can hire and staff, and of course our Associate Dean for Community Partnership, our Assistant Dean for Community Partnership, Ms. Cynthia Williams, and others. So, over this time, we've been focused. To advance equity, we know it's a partnership, and the partnership takes intentionality, and we drill down to the detail. We're not rushing to launch a program. We've been focused on trying to make sure the community is organized to achieve the results it wants for young black boys for black boys and young black men. So I've learned things to ask for help, to be patient and respectful, and to value the professionalism of those that are out there. Things might not move as fast as we want, but we have to move with love and intentionality, and to be patient and to be respectful. We must learn how to compartmentalize. So when we can't move housing issues, we're going to move something else. We're going to keep building until we get to the point that black boys can grow up in this city and in the county and know that their goals that they have for themselves or the family has for them could be supported, whether or not they have the means independently or the access to the social capital to navigate that on their own. We don't want to put any black boy success or young black man's success at risk. Everyone needs this support, whether they're getting A's or they're getting D's. Everyone needs this sort of support, and this is the idea of it takes a village to raise a child. We just haven't been organized or invested enough in our infrastructure to advance this, and collectively this is what many in the HomeGrown network has been doing together, and we can continue to do it until we hit the goal. And the goal we will know because we see it in the lives of black boys and young men.
To achieve your goals, everyone needs a little help. No one does it alone. Secure a homegrown life coach and take the next steps towards a better future. As they chase their dreams, even the smartest and most successful people had the support and coaching of others along the way. Like the rich, you deserve to have a coach who can provide the assistance and connections you need to create the life you desire. By working one-on-one with a coach, you'll be able to access and use some elite resources in St. Louis that can help you heal, grow, and thrive. Life is full of ups and downs, but we got you. As time passes, your coach will be there to provide support and feedback on how to continue making progress even when things aren't going your way. If you or someone you know is interested in securing a homegrown life coach, call or text 314-282-5768.
So with that, I know I covered, I'm sorry, you can't see me. With that, I know I covered a lot. There's so much more I wanted to say, but I wanted to make sure that we get a lot of time for you to ask questions. So I want to thank you for helping us to really focus on making St. Louis the #1 place in this country for black boys and young men to heal, grow, and thrive. And with that, I want to stop and open it up. And I'm quite sure that there'll be many questions, and I'll do my best to try to answer that. So Janet, I'm going to open back up because I know I covered a lot, but I hope it was enough for right now.
Dr. Joe, thank you so much. This is King's work. It is an audacious vision. And I'm excited about the questions that are coming through that we have. The first question that I have, Dr. Joe, is this. You mentioned at the beginning the elite potential for black boys and young men. Will you please talk more about the elite potential, what you mean by that, and how that potential might impact the wealth and prosperity of our region?
So what we're talking about is that we have a value that every child has elite potential. And the question is, and they have something that's been imparted to them that say that they will either self-actualize with the support of both family and community, right, to reach that goal. This is not something we determine. This is something that's in them, and we will help them to plan that. But the main thing is that we believe in the potential of everyone. So whether or not they're coming out of the juvenile detention center, they were born here with some elite potential, and we need to help them tap into that and find the right support for that. So that's why we start with that. So for us, it's not just, for when we say we want to focus on black boys, we're talking about everyone. It's not just those who you begin to see the signs of their elite potential. It's also those who you never believe that they have elite potential. And we believe that everyone has that potential, and if we invest in that way, I think it guides us. For me, as a Christian, it guides me in a very positive way. Two, What's the benefit? If they are better off and they're able to contribute that elite potential, then society always benefits. Their neighborhoods benefit, their family benefit, and then the region benefit. What we're talking about here is that we're not trying to solve the world. We're trying to say, St. Louis, everything that you have experienced, because this is something that you have contributed to. So if you're experiencing great wealth and success and equity, that's because you invested in great wealth and success and equity. If you're experiencing that you have a region that benefits all, that's because you designed to make sure it benefits all. If we don't have that level of intentionality, then we get what we have in a multi-ethnic society where we want to think it's a zero-sum game, and the pandemic reminds us there is no zero sum. It is a collective experience. That's what a nation is about. That's what a community is about. We decide that we have a relationship with each other, and how well we weave the fabric of support and interconnectedness and love and intentionality, that's going to determine the type of outcomes that we get.
Thank you, Dr. Joe. Janet?
Thank you so much for that. There was a question coming in from Laura, and I know you've got a very good answer for this because I've been at some of the meetings with you early on, but she was talking about the importance of community leadership and community voice, and just wondering, how did that factor into conceptualizing the homegrown model, the various ways that community leadership and community voice factored into the program design?
So one, the first thing I had to remember, because again, although I'm positioned here at WashU, I'm part of the community, right? So I bring my own 2 Black sons into this context. This is why it was critically important, and you don't get this sort of leadership if you don't have that level of commitment to it. 2, it's designed because having seen this decades upon decades, I grew up in New York. I've seen this sort of response to the killing of young Black boys and young Black men for a long time. I've seen community change. I see uprising. I see a lot of things, but I never see sustained change or population level impact. So my first goal when I got here was say, who's doing the work and how do we help them do that better? Not saying we need new things yet, just who's doing it. So from the launching, when I brought that group together, and I asked individuals who's doing the work, we came together. It was a small group. And then we say, well, do we want to work together to make sure that we can help each other do the work better? I would try to leverage whatever I can and provide some administrative core support. And then that's how the work started. So it started from that sort of vision. So again, it always began with those who are doing the work. Now, we didn't start like some initiative will say, start with the boys and start working with them. Let me see if I get this right. I said, I can't do that. I've been one of those young males, and you asking me to do things I have no preparation for, or you ask me to do things I don't have no resources for, and then at the same time, you want me to go to school and fulfill my own purpose. And I said, I'm not going to do that. You're not going to ignore the voices of young Black males, but you have to make sure you bring it into the right process as a community. And so we started first with just those who are doing the work, and that's what we've been doing. And now we're trying to build the right capacity and the right pathways for young Black male leadership and voice to be centered, and not even centered, but really to be more directly involved in guiding what success look like, guiding what the investment look like, guiding what the campaign and outreach looks like. So for me, this is community science, and it cannot happen without a broader sense of community, not a philosophical sense of community, but really strong apparatus and infrastructure for civic governance of this work. So I hope that helps.
Yes. Dr. Joe, in our chat, someone said this is an exciting presentation, and I know about the programs, and I'm excited today. So I want to say to you, I know that the age group is 12 to 29. One of the questions is, how do we get our young men involved? Who do we refer to? How do we contact HomeGrown about this program?
So definitely, so if you right now, one of the key ways to do that, and I'll put it back up, I don't have it here, is the phone number to let us know. You can go to HomeGrown StL at worcester.edu and go to the website, and that will allow you to either nominate a young man to be engaged, to receive a life coach, or if you're interested as an organization, there are a lot of ways to get involved, whether you provide services to Black boys and young men, please come and join our preferred provider network. The information is on our site and how to do that. Come to the table and again, get directly involved. If you're one of those who want to invest in strategies, and when we're talking about that, we're not talking about investing WashU. Invest in the organizations that are doing the work. Help us make sure that every Black male in the region has a life coach who can help them navigate their goals, to help them navigate this complex array of services and opportunities that's out there. Because every successful person I know, whether they're executives or not, they have a coach. They have a life coach, someone who can really help them and be there with them over time. And that's the level of investment we think that's going to be necessary. So there are many ways, or just reach out to me at sjostl@wustl.edu. And again, it's tables. This is a lot of work. This is audacious. This takes community, not one scholar, not one leader. This is a community effort, and we're trying to build those processes out that you can just do the work that you do, but come together and do it better with those who are trying to make it better, set new standards, get more resources, advance capacity. And we'll take our time. We'll take our time because this is a one-time shot. And if you're one of those who are dealing with the fires, immediately with the needs, again, I understand. We're going to keep building until we reach, we get to a point that we can engage all the organizations who provide direct care to Black boys and young men, or those who help to train them or support their entrepreneurship. There's some very focused areas that we know that are essential for their development as they go from adolescence to young adulthood.
Dr. Joe, will you tell our audience, this is such an audacious plan. Did you develop this vision based on another model in another city?
No, actually, this is a combination, and this is what we do as scholars. So what you're seeing is a cumulative effect of different pieces of work, but nothing like this has ever been tried before. So nothing like this as comprehensive as population. So this is very unique. St. Louis is the only one taking this approach with a university partner that's anchoring it. So this has not been tried before, but some of the elements are from things that we know that work. The idea of relentless engagement works. The ideas of having a coach works. So this is not a mentor. So we're pulling together the best that we know. This is one of the things that academics, we have the luxury of finding those things and putting them together while people are making sure people eat, are protected, have housing. And then we're engaging in a community process and we're building the right set of tables to do that organizing, thinking, planning, and execution, and then to be reflective. People ask me, why 100%? Well, my point is, I'd rather fail at trying to reach 100% of economic mobility than trying to reach 30%. I'm not into feasibility just because it's a small number. I'm into feasibility because we have designed it well to work. So I'm very excited about that. And again, it's not just me. I'm excited because of those who are coming to the table to say, this works, it's helping us to do better, and give us time. Again, we've been working for 7 years. Now we're trying to invest to scale. We built it to operate at scale. Now we have to invest at that level and put a life coach in the lives of every Black boy and young man, and then making sure we have a 21st century digital infrastructure to doing our work, because that fosters innovation. That fosters greater community voice, more personalized control of those who are responding to my need. So there's a lot of innovation. And again, when we're done, we'll be able to show what we uniquely have done in St. Louis. I don't think any other region is able to do it. Not right now, because we are small enough, but our resources are big enough to make the difference.
Which is a beautiful segue to a couple questions from Avis. And I'm going to lead by sharing a piece of information on something that you and I are working on. One of Avis's questions was, how do people get involved? And I wanted to share that Dr. Joe is going to be leading a session in the Brown School Summer Institute to train people to be homegrown coaches. We're not quite open for registration yet. This is positioned for social service professionals. We'll be issuing social work CEUs, but it's the week of June 20 to 24th, every morning, gathering folks together. And that will be open for registration on the Summer Institute website in a couple weeks. But Avis's question was broader. I had that answer and I needed to share it. Avis's question was really like, how can the community help and be supportive? And I do have a follow-up after you share some thoughts.
So I don't know, Janet, if you could look at it, give me a sense of what Avis mean by community. So we're talking about how can families help who have young people directly. Again, they can nominate their youth, get them involved, and making sure that we put a life coach in their hands who can assist them. They can get involved because they're referring young people. If they're an agency, by they mean by community, or someone who wants to invest, help us pay for a life coach. This is something, life coaches are staff that will be at agencies who are engaged in this homegrown work. So we want to invest in making sure that those agencies have this new workforce that can extend their reach, who can do relentless follow-up with these young people, and who have a professional development community to make sure that they're having the best access to information to say, how do I help people reach their goals, meet their needs, and connect to others who are delivering those services and care.
And then specifically, my hunch is that either based on where Avis works or just personal passion and concern, mentioned substance abuse, and wondering how do you integrate that one problem or consideration into the homegrown approach? Is that part of your preferred provider network, or
It is.
yeah?
Our approach centers on this, and again, one of the things we're trying to do is bring new trainings about how to work effectively with Black males. Depends on your setting. So, for example, we have a list of trainings. As you know, we're starting this training, another set of what you might call open classrooms, that we want to make sure we bring different leaders from across the country who can help us understand how best to do our work. So if you work in higher education, there are going to be those who really focus. So I have a network of scholars and practitioners across this country who we're going to try to find a way for them to come and help bring that additional expertise and train individuals in the region in what they know, and help us where we can in terms of partnership. But in terms of substance use specifically, our model is this: we don't compartmentalize problems. We focus on the transition from adolescence to young adulthood. And we want to say part of that, if they have a substance use issue, you got to be able to deal with that. But we know substance use does not operate in a vacuum by itself. It also operates with the pain, also operates with whether or not they have housing and the other social determinants of health. So our approach is holistic, personalized care that can attend to most crisis issue and working and making sure we're referring to those we refer to the agencies that are specialized in that, and making sure that these young people, these Black males, have access to that care. And then we want to make sure that care is actually effective with young Black boys. And that if they go into an agency and that agency disrespect their humanity, don't recognize their humanity, don't recognize them as residents and human beings. Another way of saying that, if they have biased experiences, racist experiences, dehumanizing experiences, that's not a healing agency. So you can't be part of our provider network. So the main way we do is refer people to a provider network who is built around doing better by Black boys and young men.
Dr. Joe, I have a couple of layered questions. Number one, would you please talk about your title, Homegrown? Why Homegrown StL? Sure. That's the first question. Then I'll come back with the follow-up.
The idea of Homegrown StL was really in its name. And what I've been saying, any problems that St. Louis have, St. Louis has produced those problems. Any solutions St. Louis will have, St. Louis will produce them. They will be homegrown. And that's really where I wanted to center it on what I know about community participatory work, right? The other point is that these are our boys and young men in our homes, in our region. So we want to grow them and support their growth with that level of intentionality, but that means you see a connection to them. And that's why it's also important that this is homegrown. That this is not some outside thing. This has been organic, grown here with a specific focus on St. Louis. But the elements of what we're finding out, because as a scholar, as a scientist, we're pruning those elements that we think are more universal that others can use to do their own work or to do this in another region. That's my responsibility as a scientist to say, in a very Du Bois sort of approach, which is that you cannot do fantastic work and not leave a blueprint to say how we did it, how we achieved it, so others can do it, and then more important, so we know how to sustain it here. So that's a long answer to say yes. That's how HomeGrown came about in name, but it represents the principles and values that really guides my thinking.
And my last question, Dr. Joe, is this. You mentioned somewhere on your slide about the importance of getting Black men and boys, Black men enrolled in Medicaid. Can you talk a bit more about the importance of that?
Oh yeah, so one of the things, again, we're now positioned as a region to be able to respond to opportunity. And one of the things we noticed, about 10,000 Black males over the age of 18, between the 18 and 29, who potentially don't, according to the census data, don't have health care. The passage of the Medicaid expansion, not only in our state, but it just been passed before, but the fact that we expanded in our state is the first time that single males, adult males, have access to federal health insurance. And that's never happened before. In most situations, if you are male and adult, we don't have a lot of social programs that want to help you, because we had an attitude about Black male masculinity that you got to be able to do it by yourself. But my point is, this is the first time as a region we have these resources, so let's take advantage of it. I also think it's particularly important because this is some of the darkness that's out there. If we don't help Black males in the city and county, or men in general, take advantage of this, those who need it, then the policy analysis will say we never needed it in the first place. That's the darkness that's out there. But at the same time, we have more capacity now because we have our regional steering committee, we have networks, and we have organizations we can work with. We can organize, plan, and say, how can we as a region and community, this is what communities can do. Take this information and make sure that you know a brother, a sister, a cousin, or uncle who might not have health insurance, and this is their way to get access to some basic but important health insurance for themselves. This is some of that community voice. Take this and use your voice to connect others to it. Or agencies, make sure you put it up there. Let people know what they're eligible for. We got to be intentional, we got to be loud, and we got to remind people. It's no longer important just to put up a sign. You got to reach out and keep doing this until we can document that Black male men are enrolling and taking advantage of this. And they're going to need help, because I have a PhD, and I looked at that form and I was like, okay, I'm not quite sure what they want me to fill out. This is why we're partnering, and the organizations that are at the HomeGrown table, because this is their table. It's not my table, it's their table. Now you have Eastern Legal Services of Eastern Missouri working with the Regional Health Commission, and now we know what's happening. And they said, now we can do the education. We can help people fill out the applications. So we're going to start to do those sort of things, Ms. Williams, and make sure that these partners and the resources that they're offering, that we have a way to communicate that to a broader community in an organized way, and then can keep track of things. That's what having HomeGrown is: infrastructure, civic infrastructure, the civic village, and making sure it operates. And our impact is always going to be measured in the long term. Do we help Black boys grow up to be young Black men who are better off? Health, in terms of individual health, or going from school to work, whether it's employer or entrepreneur, right? Or then engage in civic society in the ways that we want: voting, volunteering, and other things.
We've got some great members of the Civic Village here with us, and our hour is nearly coming to a close. Want to do a couple things to just sort of bring the program to a close. There were some key messages and some calls to action that I heard, so I want to sort of recap it and give you a chance to give us a closing thought, Professor Joe. I'm hearing loud and clear that there's an opportunity to refer boys to participate, and we've shared that link, and folks can visit the HomeGrown St. Louis website for that. The Medicaid expansion is particularly an important tool that we have to contribute to health and well-being of some folks who weren't previously eligible, and shout it from the rafters and help somebody if you can. And we've also alluded that there's going to be training opportunities here at the school, so please be aware that we're going to have information to share, and we'd love for you to tune in and learn with us and maybe become a part of some of this. What else do we want to leave folks with, our friends, as we close the program?
I say one, thank you for your time, but more important, know that there's a space for anyone who deals with anything from housing, personal safety, to mentoring, to banking, to skills development. There's room in this work for all of us because it needs all of us to advance that. Come to the table, work with us, let us work with your initiative. Again, our goal is to make sure that these boys are better off, and we have a unique opportunity right now to do that as a region. And then making sure that go to the HomeGrown webpage and take a look. But more important, if you can help a Black boy and sponsor them, invest in them, both with your time, support, services, do it where you can, because we'll meet in the middle of success. It doesn't matter where you're starting from. We will meet up together if that's your intention. So I want to thank you. And again, this will take time. Don't be frustrated, right? Keep our eyes on the prize.
Beautiful place to leave it. Thank you so much. As always, I get so inspired when you talk about your work. It makes me believe in the best possible vision of our future together. So thank you for that. And Cynthia for being my awesome co-host. Wonderful participation from the audience. We appreciate you. This is the first of just a really robust set of Black History Month events, and we hope to see you back for many of the others. Until then, please stay healthy and safe out there, everyone. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye now.
Thank you.